Well, the one that, listen and be one together in your mind, and, magic happen. That's surfing, so funny. You have to try it and you can feel it. The first wave, the first time you ride, and you can tell right away, man, this is the one, It's exactly from your paddle, from the paddling, already you can feel, oh, this feels good, Just like you're dating a girl, you start meeting, talking, and yeah, that's how the relationship begins,
That's the key. If you have a good board, you're surfing heaps. If you don't have a good board, you're not really psyched to surf,
I've had some pretty unreal ones. Magic carpets, everybody can say that. And then, people have bought surfboards in to be copied because they had the perfect surfboard, and I don't know, there's something about that surfboard, and it's not necessarily just the shape, it's a glass that can cut wider laps, which will change your flex grade in the board. A blank can be more porous and it can suck in more resin, which changes the weights, and so there's so many variables. And I mean, if you get that magic surfboard, it's like you want to wrap that thing in cotton wool. And there's guys on that pro tour that do it. They only ride those boards in events. They don't, they put that away. They're not going to risk the chance of taking that board out there and snapping it when they know that board's going to win them events.
Actually, in Uluwatu, it was really fun, so it looked perfect, so I knew I had to take the magic board out. When I came in, the board is still in one piece, so I was stoked, yeah.
You can make, for example, 3 boards exactly the same, but maybe for the surfer, only once is the perfect, or is the magic one.
Well, I got into shaping boards. My younger brother, Mark, was Australian junior professional champion in '83, I think it was, and he got sponsored by a Japanese company, and I actually had the opportunity to actually go there and learn to shape surfboards with the company. The one thing that really helped me out was the fact that Mitsubishi Corporation, that make the cars, actually branched into foam surfboard blanks, and they had problems with their formulas, and the guy that I was working with knew somebody that worked in that division with Mitsubishi foam, and they were going to throw out 10,000 blanks on the rubbish tip, and they basically just said, how many do you want? You can practice on these. And to have that opportunity would have taken me, I don't know, 5 years, maybe longer. The surfboard is made basically from a foam-based polyurethane or a styrofoam-based blank, which is then shaped. And then with a polyurethane, you're using a polyurethane resin, and the cloth always remains the same. With the styrofoam board, you're looking at using epoxy resins. And so the process starts with the shaper, moves through to the glassing, and then the board's sanded and finished, possibly airbrushed if somebody wants like a nice design on their board. The thinner your rail is, the more it'll cut into the water, which, is better in a bigger wave. Your bottom curve, flatter rockers, move faster, better in smaller conditions. And then you've got all the varying tail shapes, from round squares to rounded pins to swallowtails. Like a round pin will serve more of a kind of longer arc, whereas a square tail will give you that release out of your turn. And so then you've got your fin placement and, different angles and toes to where your fins are placed, to how much drive you'll get out of the surfboard. And, it's kind of probably the best analogy of that. It's like having a car steering wheel on full lock, and the more you've got your fins splayed over, the looser it becomes. The more upright they are, the tighter it becomes, the more pulled into the nose. So it's like just letting out the wheel, and your arc gets bigger and bigger and in a turn. So, you know, it's like all those components come together to, you know, try to achieve what you're trying to achieve, which is the perfect surfboard. Yeah, when a surfer asks me for a board, I guess, you know, the main factor is them being honest with their own ability, you know, and actually getting something that can either advance their surfing or, you know, a guy that is actually a really good surfer that knows what he needs, and he might just want to change a small area of the board for what he thinks could make it perform better.
My name is Marlon Gerber, born in Indonesia, Bali. Swiss father, Indonesian mother. Yeah, I grew up in Bali all my life. Started surfing when I was about 10 years old. And been a pro surfer for about 15 years. I met Matt at my parents' hotel where I stayed, and Matt's parents lived right next door to us. Yeah, at the time I didn't really know how lucky I was having a shaper next to my house, you know, but now I think back, it was quite special, you know, not many kids had that, especially in Bali at that time. It's always helpful if you have that relationship with the shaper, when they can watch you surf and they can tweak the boards a bit according to your style. Just a little fine-tuning of the board, you know, that really helps.
That's very important as a surfer. You have to work very close with the shaper because you make sure where your mind want to go when you're riding the wave, you know. If you have a little drag, little things, you know, a little different in the tail or, you know, your hips, make a big difference on the board, you know, and how the board ride. You work very closely with the shapers, work on every design, every surf competition where they go, they have different specific boards.
I communicate with my shaper a lot, Rizal. He comes to Bali a lot, so he watches me surf, look back at old footage and see where we can improve on that. And also my dad has input, like he knows really well. He's been surfing for like before I was even born, so he's very like smart.
I like to take this board out with the round tail kids and the barrel, kind of like more stable, and you go kind of like just go through the whitewash and stuff, and yeah, it's pretty good for barrels. I'm still with Rizal, same as him, and yeah, just like talking about boards and then my height, my weight and stuff, and move on from there.
You kind of always hear that sort of surfer-shaper relationship, and there's been so many of them over the years, and you know, from Rusty Priestendorfer to Mark Opaluco to Greg Clough with Barton Lynch, from Al Merrick to Tom Curran, Tom Carroll with Bill Byrne, Darren Hanley, the more recent times with Mick Fanning. And for me, it was a young guy from Port Macquarie named Mick Campbell who ended up working his way up to becoming like #2 surfer in the world in '98. So he came and lived with us for 10 years, and I kind of looked after his sort of like whole managerial side, and you know, and it gave him a home base and somewhere where he could come and go freely, and you know, and so it was, you know, I guess that situation, we were like brothers, or you know, father-son relationship, I don't know, like it was, you know, but it was a, yeah, it was a situation, and I think if you asked any of the other shapers and surfers their relationship, you'll find it was all kind of a similar thing, where people, you know, like they had that tie, you know, with the surfer, and then just this massive change came to surfing.
My name is Patrick Napoli. I'm originally from Germany, but I grew up in Italy. At the moment when I arrived, it was 99, 2000, and no, actually there was no any manufacturer of surfboards here in Bali. So I think maybe I'm one of the first one, yeah. When I was living here at the beginning, it was perfect. I can shape one board by day, it was enough for living. After, when the living costs go higher, you have to work more and more. No, of course, I start making boards and shaping, like traditional, with a planner, every day. I think I probably did for 10 years and shaping. After, I see the first shaping machine actually in France. And of course, when I was shaping by hand, I get tired. So I don't have so much time for surfing. So the introducing of shaping machinery in the surfboard market make the shaper have a little bit more time for family, time for surfing, and produce better boards.
With that happening, a lot of Chinese mass-produced imports came into the market, and I don't know, it just became a situation where we couldn't even make a surfboard for the prices that some of these surfboards were retailing for, and I don't know, I guess I just sort of saw the writing on the wall, and I kind of just sort of walked away from it, really. So my plan was actually just to go travelling around the world, and so I was going to Europe and doing some work there, shaping boards, and then spending a lot of time in Bali, and in the end I just wound up here in Bali and opened a restaurant and sort of just gave the shaping away. Living here in Bali, and a lot of like international shapers that come through Bali stay with me, and one shaper in particular, Timmy Patterson from California, who, you know, is a pretty famous guy, shaped the world champions boards, Italo Ferreira, shaped for a guy, Matt Archibald, always stayed with me, and he was using Shape 3D software, and he pretty much gave me a bit of a rundown on how it all worked, and so when COVID hit, I had the software, and I just kind of used to muck around with it like it was a video game, and I just did surfboard designs, and then, you know, that whole power of the internet, I started posting a lot of old photos and video clips from when I had different professional surfers riding my boards, and actually just called the kind of whole thing like Shaping Bay Days, and it was more of just like, you know, kind of a fun thing to do about days gone by for me. And from there, a company, Sideways Surf in Australia, saw what I'd been posting, and then they approached me and actually asked me whether I'd be interested in possibly working out of their factory, which is here in Indonesia. And so, yeah, so I kind of ran with that. I ended up having to go up to their factory in Surabaya, which was kind of a funny one because I'd never had a board cut off the machine like that before. So when I turned up there and spoke to the manager, production manager, a guy named Troy Hurst, I had to come clean and tell him, like, I've never actually had this done before, so go easy on me if these designs, like, aren't. And he was actually great and was pretty sort of like amazed at like the fact that I kind of never had boards cut, but I did know everything that I wanted to put into those surfboards. I had a shaping book that had all my numbers and boards for different professional surfers and over the years, and and so I just kind of ran with what I knew worked, and I could look in that book and go, well, Mick Campbell rode that board and won this contest on it, and I'm going to kind of stick with those rockers and maybe adjust them. And then because it's so easy now just to kind of adjust those rockers, then yeah. And then I was really happy because the first board that I ever did off the machine that just got smashed to bits, which my whole thing was I was going to hang that on the wall, because after 15 years it was like my #1 board here in Indonesia, Bali. Yeah, I was like really sort of stoked with how good that board went, but I still think I can probably get 30–40% more performance out of it. So when people found out that I was making boards again, it created a lot of interest, especially with the older guys that always rode my boards. And one young girl, South African girl, Caitlin Reese, she's really good, and she's just been getting some boards off me. And
I met Matt Haymes about 2.5 years ago, and then we hit it off, and we needed a board for my daughter's birthday, and I saw some of the shapes that looked great, and my daughter had an older board. It was a bit big for her. It was a shelf board, as you know, it wasn't two-seater style, and then we got this for her birthday, and it's improved her surfing radically, to be honest. It's really, she jumped up a lot, eh?
Compared to the other board, it was like really big, and it was kind of just like a mission to do turns, and just I wasn't really into it. But then after like 4 days of using this board, I was already like having so much fun, catching a lot of waves. I was also more confident on this board.
Yeah, so even here I've had a bit of interest and I've shaped a few boards, but I'm not chasing it. It's not like my only form of income. I've got a lot of different things going on, and so now I'm just really enjoying something that I walked away from, and I was pretty bitter and twisted, to be honest with you. Right now, I'm just loving my surfing. I mean, that had a lot to do with this pandemic as well. I mean, I surfed 411 days straight. And just to be able to ride a board that I'd shaped myself again, and and yeah, it was just an amazing feeling. And it's like anything right now, photography went digital, but at the same time, it's that photographer's vision and input and looking at light and different aspects of like that whole art. You've still got to be able to see something to take a great photograph. Shaper's always going to be needed because he's the guy that's got to input everything. Like, that machine's not going surfing. Like, that machines don't surf. Or maybe they will. I don't know. Like little robot surfers out there. At this point in time, you still need that human input. But for how long, who knows?